What's up, cognac lovers? I hope you guys are all doing great today. In this video, I will be explaining what in the world is cognac. You see it everywhere. I'm sure you've heard of the big brands Hennessy, Martell, Cavassier, Douce, Remy Martin. What is it? Why does it taste the way it tastes? How is it different than whiskey? And this is what I'm going to dive into. We'll get straight into it. So, cognac, first part, the biggest part is that it's made from grapes, specifically only white grapes that you see there. I'm on cognacexpert.com because they have a lot of great illustrations. So I've used this today to help explain. Cognac can only be used, only use white grapes, and essentially what cognac is called in that any any spirit that's distilled from grapes is called brandy. You just follow with me. So brandy is made from white grapes. And so going forward, we have these white grapes, and what happens? We turn them into a distillation. So essentially, they create wine. They ferment those grapes like you would for normal wine, like a Cabernet, Chardonnay, right? White, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Gris. For French, Pinot Grigio. Same process. That's how it starts. But then they distill that wine, and that is the difference. That's what brandy is, and that is what they call the eau de vie. As you can see there, French word for that brandy. What comes off the still? Here's a still. Here's a picture of the process. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat of how this all works. I can also make a separate video because this can be quite complex on its own. This whole process, it's the science of it is actually insane, and I'm like, why? How did they even know how to do this? But you know what I'm saying. But that's essentially what it is. It's called eau de vie. As you see there, that's how it looks when it comes off the still. That those grapes, it makes a clear spirit like vodka. It's completely clear. So where does that color come from, right? I have a cognac, for example, here. Where does that brownness come from, right? Brown, dark liquor. If it's clear, where does that come from? So that comes from kind of a second part. How is cognac aged? How is brandy aged? Comes from barrels. Comes from barrels. Now, brandy can be made anywhere. It can be made anywhere in the entire world. There's American brandy, German brandy. Some of the biggest ones are German brandy's huge, Spanish brandy, anywhere. French has its own brandies, right? So then why is it called cognac? Why, if it can be made anywhere, why is it just not called brandy? And here's the biggest distinction between brandy and cognac. Cognac is brandy. Cognac is brandy. But the reason it is called cognac because they found out from this region, for some reason, the soil, the clay limestone deposits make phenomenal brandy. And that is the town of Cognac. Cognac, France is in the southwestern region. Brandy cannot be called cognac unless it is from this region. And so that's why cognac kind of exploded because they recognized that, wow, this makes some really, really great brandy. And so they wanted to have that, on their own. France, way back in the day, hey, let's have our own spirit like many other countries do. For instance, in America, bourbon can only be made in America, Scotch only in Scotland, right? Irish whiskey only Ireland. So France, hey, let's have our own thing. And that's where cognac is from. Then other videos against some of the other things like Armagnac. What is Armagnac? Where is that from? And Cognac is in this southwestern region. It's very far from Paris, but it's not a crazy see Paris there. I went to Cognac, France. I'll show you some footage right here of Cognac. It was amazing, beautiful. I cannot wait to go back. About a almost 2.5 hour train ride, so that was nice. They have those bullet trains there. Wish we had in the U.S., but not for this channel. So there's Cognac, very small, and that's essentially what Cognac is. But getting that color, they use French barrels. They other types of spirits have to use new barrels or charred barrels. Cognac, they just have to use the French oak. It can be used. It can be brand new. It can be charred, whatever. And so that's where that color comes from. That's what that color comes from. Yeah, the only two types of oak, the limousine oak's probably the most popular for cognac because that comes from the forest named Limousine. So that's where they use all their oak from. So you won't find a cognac not using Limousine or Tonka or Troncase. And I got to get better at my French, but it'll be all right. So those are the main things that make up cognac. It's made from grapes. It has to be made from Cognac, France, and the French oak barrels are from that specific forest. All right, and that's really it. Thank you guys for watching. I will dive into kind of the different designations. You'll hear my puppy there. I'm about to feed him. I'll dive into the different designations of cognac in my next video, so stay tuned for that. VS, VSOP, XO, you've heard of them, but what do those even mean, right? What's the history behind it? Is that old? Is that young? We don't know, right? So if you want to know what that is, if you want to know what those mean, stay tuned for my next video. I'll have it linked down below when it's all finished up. If you want to know more, I highly recommend to check that out.